no shortage of spruce trees around here.
Spruce trees can burn really well.
Deep in the boreal forest outside Yukon's capital, the race is on to build a massive permanent fuel break, among the first in Canada. This area just south of the city of Whitehorse is being forever changed. Old spruce and pine trees are being cleared to create a massive corridor called a fuel break.
It's kind of the balance, eh? Like, I understand people hate to see that kind of clear cutting.
It's a big change for sure. I would argue it's necessary in this context.
But can you really wildfire-proof an entire city? I'm about to find out. Most Yukoners live here in Whitehorse, known as the Wilderness City. About 36,000 people. And just outside the city stands the biggest threat of wildfire: spruce and pine trees. The Yukon government is trying to do something about it. So where are we heading to?
So we're gonna head south on the Copper Hall Road,
Uh-huh.
down to the Mary Lake area.
I took a drive with experts on this project, Luke Bebo and Jennifer Sharp.
It's pretty much exclusively pine and spruce around here.
The fuel break follows an old mining road. This is a huge clearing of trees right here. If a fire were to burn in this area towards Whitehorse, how realistic is that probability?
I think it's an inevitability, to be honest with you.
Yukon's government plans to spend $11 million to build the fuel break. When finished, it will stretch 20 kilometers long and up to 2 kilometers wide, thinning some areas, clear-cutting others, and replanting them with slower-burning trees. Its location is strategic.
Most of the time, the wind comes out of the south, out of the Carcross Valley and the Marsh Lake area in the summertime. It's like 80% of the time.
Blowing right towards Whitehorse.
There hasn't been a fire in this area since somewhere around like 1908.
So it's almost time for it to happen.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
The big worry is a catastrophic fire like this. An assessment done a few years ago found that a Fort McMurray-type fire could hit Whitehorse and likely will. Lightning strikes have also increased with the changing climate. Not wasting any time, the Yukon government started building the fuel break in 2020. Nearly 400 hectares of trees have been cleared and sent for salvaging. So Luke, there is just so much fuel to burn here. Like, there's just so many trees.
Yeah, it's pretty wild how dense it gets to be, right? So this is exactly what it looked like before we went in. It's a big change for sure. I would argue it's necessary in this context.
Those tiny needles packed with resin can become volatile with fire.
As a fire is burning along the ground, maybe it's burning in this moss or this leaf litter that we've got here. As those flames grow, they reach up and they climb this ladder. They climb the ladder fuels and they go all the way up the tree. They torch off in those really aggressive, scary looking crown fires. They're kind of our worst enemy in some ways, but they're also part of the ecosystem.
I'm constantly concerned about it. I know that the fire seasons are getting longer. We've had more and more severe events.
Sandy Johnston's home is just across Mary Lake, less than 2 kilometers from the fuel break. So Sandy, hot days are coming. What do you think about when it's a hot day out here?
Well, if it's a low humidity for a few days, if it's above 25 degrees, and if there's a strong south wind blowing, and I smell any hint of smoke, I'm a little bit nervous.
He's been fire smarting his property more and more every year, like rigging up this vacuum to suck leaves from the roof.
We've been in full support of the development of the fuel break. It's something that we're kind of grateful to see being developed, but at the same time, there's a lot of concerns, I guess. And there may be a false sense of security from the residents of Whitehorse that the fuel break's going to save us from a wildfire, which it's not. The biggest threat to the community will be from an ember shower. Last summer you saw embers go across the Okanagan Lake.
Part of the planning is to keep ember showers like this from reaching so far by redesigning the forest and replacing spruce and pine trees with aspen. So Jennifer, tell me more about this guy.
So we sourced the seed from Fort Nelson.
Jennifer Sharp is a forester working on the fuel break.
In the next 5 to 10 years, you'll see a sea of aspen.
Wow. Prescribed burns like this one help prepare the land for hundreds of thousands of aspen seedlings. Talk about why aspen is so important.
Aspen don't burn as well as the trees we see in the background, which are conifers. So pine and spruce, they're more fire resistant. They don't have the ladder fuels that bring surface fire up into the trees and make fire behavior more intense. And so these species in particular are great for reducing the fire intensity if a fire was to approach this area.
To really see the magnitude of the project, I joined this Yukon government reconnaissance flight. The first of the season.
We've been working on this project for, I think, about 4 years now.
Mike Fancy and his team go up regularly to see how things are shaping up.
If it weren't for the fuel break, if there ever were a fire in the area, we would have to put the bulldozers in the ground really quickly, get down to mineral soil as fast as possible. Because of this work, not only are we able to do so with more consultation and more collaboration and less potential environmental consequence, we're able to do it on our terms.
There's a lot at stake when it comes to protecting Whitehorse. It's the major transportation, service, and government center for the entire territory.
People are really anxious. There's no two ways about it.
The Minister of Community Services, Richard Mostyn, says the fuel break is only one tool to protect the city.
Of course, the Yukon is known for its beauty, its wilderness. Why then is it so important to forever change the landscape?
I call this living infrastructure, really. So basically what we're doing is making these changes to our landscape because we're seeing the threats of our changing climate so profoundly here in the north. I mean, it's happening here faster than anywhere else in the country.
Is it enough? Will it be enough?
The short answer is no, it's not enough. The fire smarting is another very key point. You know, we all have a responsibility to play in the face of the challenges we're seeing through climate change.
In another part of the city is where I meet up with Gary Bailey,
So we're actually an urban First Nation, which is kind of a unique situation.
a member of the Kwanlandun First Nation.
My lifestyle and the way I live my life is about the land. Everything I do is connected, so it means everything to me.
Bailey says his First Nation was involved in the planning process to build the fuel break.
It's kind of the balance, eh? Like, I understand people hate to see that kind of clear cutting and stuff like that, but what would really impact everybody directly is if a fire came through and wiped everything out. Then not only is the forest gone, but so are the animals, and so are the berries, and so are all the plants, things that sustain us are gone too, right? There's a lot at stake.
Another thing that's really...
Officials say they are anticipating a normal fire season, but last year there was a record-breaking 207 wildfires.
It's certainly not to say that the risk is gone. We need to kind of stay vigilant, but I don't live in fear of this stuff. I think we have to have a healthy respect of fire and a humble relationship to it.